So if you need to replace a chain, we're going to go over the steps for that, starting with removing an old chain. So every chain that we put on our bikes has a master link. It's a removable link, makes it very easy to just replace a chain. You'll notice it has this little clip on the inside, and all we really need to do to get the chain off is just remove that clip. Usually when you use a tool it's fairly strong and you can just push it off with. I'm going with the edge of this plier here. So, replaced that, or got that off there. So you can remove the inner link from the chain. There that goes. And then push out the other end of the master link, and your chain comes off. Okay, so you're getting ready to replace the chain now. What you want to do is make sure your brake is disengaged, cable's off the caliper. You want to undo the chain tensioners, back those bolts all the way out, undo the axle nuts, and push the rear wheel as far back as possible. We also went ahead and disengaged the shifter cable, just because. So you want to have the wheel pushed back pretty far so that installing the new chain is a bit easier. There's going to be less tension on it, and therefore it's easier to handle and easier to get the master link in. For the 8-speed and 11-speed, you'll want to use a chain with 88 links. A 3-speed will use a 86 link chain. This just has to do with the number of teeth on the chainring and on the cog. So, once you know you have the proper length chain, go ahead and install that by just putting it over the chain ring. You want to get your master link. Go ahead and put it through the ends of the chain, making sure that the chain is wrapped around the cog on your rear wheel. Okay, so we want to put the plate over the other side of the chain, and then take this little pin, slide it over the chain, use a set of pliers. This is awkward. Hold on. Can you see this? Mm-hmm. And push that link into place. Okay, we're going to set the chain tension. With the axle nuts still pretty loose, what you want to do is feel the tension on the chain. You don't want it to be too tight or the chain will bind and it'll make for a very inefficient ride. So it's good to move the wheel around, checking the tension, making sure it isn't binding up. You want a little bit of play in it. I usually say about an inch of total movement side to side. And certain spots in the chain will be tighter than others, just how it goes. So you kind of just want to go for a good average. Once you have a spot with good tension on it, use your tensioners to set the wheel so that it's centered in that location in the dropouts. You do this by sighting down the rear of the tire, looking towards the frame. So I will use these tensioners to get the wheel set into position. Once I feel that the wheel is perfectly centered, go ahead and tighten down the axle nuts. Okay, 15mm wrench. I want these to be pretty tight. And since the frame tends to just bend slightly when you tighten this whole system down, you go back and check your chain tension again. Most likely it will have gotten a little bit tighter. If it's an unacceptable level of tightness, undo the axle nuts, back out the tensioner slightly, give the whole thing another go. Okay, so this chain feels good. So what I'm going to do now, tighten down these little lock nuts with a 10mm wrench, locking the chain in place. These not only ensure that the wheel can't come out of the dropouts, but that if these were not to be tight enough and the wheel shifted, it would most likely not move very far and it would still be very rideable. Next thing you need to check when you're setting up a new chain or just retensioning a chain is positioning the brake pads against the rim. As you can see on this bike, now that I've put a new chain on, the pad is essentially touching the sidewall of the tire. So what you want to do is go through the brake setup process as explained in the brake video. Here's the shifter cable. It's explained in the shifting video. And check to make sure that your hub is in proper alignment. And that is how you tension a chain. So one thing you want to check when somebody wants a new chain, it's basically just how worn that chain is. First indicator would be if their wheels slid all the way in front of the dropout and the chain is still really loose. Clearly it's stretched beyond its use at that point, so you want to get rid of it. If it's not to that point, you can still check it. There's a bunch of different chain checkers out there. We use this Park chain checker, the CC2. And this one works by just, so on this one you just push this cam, check the number. If it's over a certain amount, then you need to replace the chain. So there are a lot of different chain checkers. They all work with a system pretty similar to that to measure a distance between links. So I'd recommend getting one. But in general, if the chain is at the end of the dropout and it is super loose, you might as well just get a new one.